Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Nick Davenport, aka Mr. Mental Muscle. We have a mental muscle talk today, and I want to talk about changing behaviors and habits. Now, have you heard of the typical term of it takes 21 days to form a new habit? Now, the problem with this is it doesn't take 21 days. It doesn't take 30 days. It doesn't even take a year. You know why? Because it's relative, first of all, who's trying to change the behavior. And also, it's probably going to take way longer than a month because behaviors don't take 30 days or 21 days to form. So they definitely don't take 21 days to change. And I think they do that just because it sells magazine coverage. Would you like to hear, hey, you got a year to change your behavior, buy this magazine or buy this product? Probably not. So it's just good marketing. But when it comes to psychology, there's two psychologists, James Prochaska and Carlo Di Clemente, who came up with something called the trans-theoretical model, or the stages of change. Now, there's 5 stages we're going to talk about: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. Now, each stage represents a different aspect of where you are on your journey to change a behavior or stop an old behavior that you don't want to do anymore. So it can go both ways. Now, we can use an example, let's say fitness or starting to work out, because that's probably one of the most popular behaviors, or maybe you have trouble, you want to quit smoking or something of that nature. But we're going to use for this example, fitness. Now, the first stage, pre-contemplation. I always say this is thinking about thinking. And sometimes you're not even thinking about it, because in the pre-contemplation stage, the person hasn't yet realized that the old behaviors are detrimental. And if they do have an inkling that it's detrimental, they don't see the value of changing. So using the fitness example, maybe it's been 5 or so years since you've really worked out and been eating properly. You've gained a few pounds, but it's happened so gradually, you don't really notice just by looking in the mirror. But every now and then you feel more winded when you're walking, or the clothes aren't fitting like they used to. So you're at a point where there needs to be a change, but you probably don't realize it because it's so gradual, or you do realize it, but you don't think the new behavior is as beneficial. People usually say something like, well, I tried working out in the past and I didn't really see a lot of results, but it's just not for me. Now you're using these rebuttals to negate the fact that a change is needed. So that's why it's the pre-contemplation. You're not even thinking about, what can I do to change this behavior? How is it really being detrimental to my life? Can I improve? Do I need to stop what I'm doing, or do I need to start something else? So that's why the pre-contemplation stage is usually where people aren't likely to change. It's not imminent. It's not in the near future. But once again, it's something that they may be aware of, or they just don't care yet enough to make the change. Now, the next stage is the contemplation. So here we transcend into the fact that, okay, I realize that I haven't been working out. I'm gaining a little more weight. I'm not as strong as I used to. I don't feel good like I used to. I'm looking at old pictures and comparing. And we've all probably gone through this in this example. But now you're saying, wow, I need to do something to change. I realized that my heart health needs to be better. I went to the doctor. They said my levels were too high. My blood pressure was up, my cholesterol. So you're now realizing that this behavior is no longer beneficial, and you need to either stop the old behavior or start the new behavior to make that change. Now, this segues perfectly into the next stage, which is the preparation. So the name kind of gives it away. You're now preparing to do the next step and get into it. So you still haven't started the change, but you see how they transcend one to another. Because with the preparation stage, now you say, I know I need to change. I recognize what I'm doing wrong and what I need to do better or need to stop doing. Now let's figure out what resources, what tools, what kind of efforts, what kind of time this is going to take to get to the new behavior. So using the fitness example, this might look like looking up recipes online, going to YouTube, figuring out some workouts, or maybe you even call a gym to find out if they have any training programs, to get a personal trainer, or just finding out any information you can, because now you understand, now that I want to change, what do I need to do? And this is important because a lot of times when we want to get into a new endeavor, a new behavior, we just jump into it head first. Now, using the fitness example again, if you just say, okay, I'm going to go for a run or a walk around the block, this is fine because you are taking some action, which is the next stage. But sometimes that could be detrimental because you're not yet ready to sustain that change. So preparing is important because to ensure that you have the best likeliness to achieve the goal and make the change, you need to have the right tools, the right resource to get into it. So the next stage is action. Now, the action stage, once again, kind of gives it away. You're actually taking an action to start the new change. So you start working out 2 to 3 times a week. You start eating healthier, cutting back calories, or doing whatever you need to do to get the new behavior, new goal. But it hasn't been sustained yet. So typically, if we put a number on it, they say less than 6 months. Now, you see why that 21-day thing doesn't really work here, because it says less than 6 months, meaning if you haven't done this behavior for at least 6 months, you can't even think about sustaining it, because you haven't really done it enough to make it a habit to the point where you're doing it effortlessly or with less effort, I should say, because everything takes effort. So I'll use an example of when I used to be a personal trainer and I would get new clients. And I would ask them trying to figure things out, do motivational interviewing. And I would ask them things like, do you work out? How you eating? They'll tell me, yeah, I eat pretty well. I work out 2-3 times a week. I'm like, oh, really? And I would look at them and do their measurements. I'm like, this doesn't really equal to what you're saying. But then I ask this question, I'll say, so how long have you been working out and eating better? About 2 weeks now. And that makes complete sense why they still look not in the best shape, because 2 weeks is not a long time and it's definitely not enough time to make a significant physical change, let alone a mental change. And that's really what it's about. Because if you sustain the behaviors, the mental change, the physical could come along with it and everything else around it. So that's why the under 6 months part is important, because you need to sustain and build the behaviors where it becomes almost autonomous. Because I talk about all the time, when you do something, you get better at it. You get better at it. You want to showcase it. You showcase it. You want to do it. You do it. You get better at it. And it just keeps going around and around. And the same thing with your behaviors. If you just do something every now and then, you're less likely to want to do it as a default. We always revert to our default mode in most situations. So same thing with a change. If you try to make a change and you haven't practiced or done the behavior enough time to sustain it, you're going to revert to your default mode, and that default mode is going to be lesser. So that's why you need to do the action stage. It means that you've sustained the goal or the behavior change, but it hasn't been at least 6 months. Now, the next stage, which would be the last stage, is maintenance. Now, maintenance means I've done the behavior. It's been over 6 months, meaning you probably at this point have gotten to the point of sustaining it. You might slip up here and there, but it's become a part of your life. It's ingrained in your mind, and you're less reluctant to do it. And it's something that comes almost second nature. Now, the thing with the maintenance phase is it's not 100% going to stay there. There might be relapse when you backtrack and you start working out, or you start smoking again, or whatever the new behavior is. You start doing unhealthy behaviors, unhealthy habits. But it's not to say that you fell off the wagon, because we can go about this systematically and plan. Because if you know that you're going to have some times where you might relapse or fall off the new behavior, put that into your mindset that it can happen. It doesn't mean you failed. It just means you have to regroup and reconnect and figure out what to do. So using fitness again, if I know I'm going out of town for a week for a cruise or some kind of vacation, I got a lot that either I'm going to move more while I'm out on this trip, or I'm going to eat more appropriately. It doesn't mean you have to starve yourself, but you need to be mindful that you're probably not going to work out as much on this trip, or you're going to be going out to eat. So therefore, it's going to be more likely to eat the foods that aren't the best, because you're on the road, you're usually going to a restaurant. Now, can you make healthier options at this restaurant? Sure. But the point is, if you're mindful of that, even if it's short term, like a birthday party, always be mindful of what's going to happen, because it's not a linear process. It's cumulative. It can go up, it can go down, it can go back and go up again, but it's every step added up. So let's get out of this framework of that behaviors need to be this finite 31-day, 21-day change. Like I said, that's for selling magazines to make you feel good, but is it really going to change the behavior so you can sustain? So think about this, the trans-theoretical model, or the stages of change when you try to embark on your new behaviors. Thanks for tuning in, and get your mind right.